G'day and welcome to the Campfire Project. Today I'm here, first of all, with Barke Faraj Kamuss. Be your own hero, empowering young people, adults and entrepreneurs. Welcome to the Campfire Project, okay?
Thank you. Thank you, Alan.
Thank you. And then we have Joseph McGuire, who's a facial analyst expert from ClearSight Communications. Welcome to the Campfire Project, Joseph.
Absolute pleasure again. Thanks, Alan.
And we have Marcus Ross, counsellor and transformational coach and Men's Elevate Counselling. Welcome to the Campfire Project, Marcus.
Thanks very much for having me on, Alan.
You're welcome. Now, the subject today, and this one's been courtesy of Barke, and that is, are you developing the leader within you? And I think that's a great subject. We're talking about how, quite often, how other people should be doing things. But it's good for us and us four here to look at how we develop that leader within us as well. So, Barke, it was your title for today's subject. So what I'd like to do is pass it over to you to get us started on this. You know, what was the thing that instigated that title in the first place?
Well, thank you, Alan. It is a great title because I've worked in corporate field before, and I've met a lot of management. I've met leaders in different places. Now, it's who or what type of leader are you? But before we can get to know what type of leader are you, but you need to know who are you at the beginning. Do you even know yourself? And that is where the magic happens. Before you can be able to lead someone else, are you able to lead yourself? And by getting to know you, the first thing I want to ask you is that these 3 steps. Now, let's think about what are we thinking about and what are we doing, what our actions say about us, and what our behavior present us. So those 3 main key points that we do every single day, that shows what type of leader we are. And so this is the main thing. So what we keep thinking, what we keep doing, and what does it present? That's my, this is what it all starts. So I would love to hear from my my colleagues here, what they're gonna say and what their input about this title today.
Well, we might throw over to Marcus if we like.
Excellent. Yeah, so this is obviously, I feel, a multi-layered topic, but it's a great topic. And like Barke said, a lot of what we do, I feel like it's about obviously our actions, the communication also that we have with other people around us. And the other side of this too, I think, is what I found on my journey at the very beginning. The important thing for me was considering value, our own personal values and where they fit into the whole picture. So for me, getting really clear on what those values were, that led to me being able to get really clear on my purpose also. And I think another part of this as well is, for us to be intentional. So a lot of the time, I think I have definitely done this in the past, and I'm sure other men that I've worked with have definitely experienced this, and they would say, a lot of the time we think about what it is when we talk about how are we showing up. We're thinking about what we're doing. We're thinking about more so that we haven't necessarily done anything wrong to say, but the thing is that it's more about like what are we doing? Are we being intentional with what we are actually doing? So I've sort of come to the point now where I'm able to identify, those two or three goals that I might be working on at that one time, and really focusing in and zoning in on those particular goals of what I would like to achieve in each day. I think that is, and obviously has to be in line with our own personal values and our own core beliefs. But yeah, I feel like that is really important. Everything obviously needs to align, and everything needs to fit in with with our own personal values, beliefs, and everything like that in the way that we're showing up, the way that we're communicating, and the way that we're behaving in the world. Yeah.
Thank you. And Joseph?
Yeah, a lot of food for thought there, and yeah, two things that resonate particularly for me. There's two things I invariably bring up in my own training. One is the Albert Mehrabian study. You'll know this one, Alan, from back in 1970, where people get these figures, the 7%, the 38%, and the 55%, and they always get it wrong. Even body language trainers get it wrong, and people talk about only 7% of our communication is in the words, and it's complete nonsense, and it was always nonsense, because all the study was about congruency in communication, getting the words, the tone of voice, the body language all congruent, and getting it all aligned. And that ties in very much with what Marcus was talking about there for me with the values. And then I always talk then about the three brains: the head, the heart, and the gut. And so many people in business, politics, life in general are completely out of touch with their bodies. They're stuck up here completely, and they've no real connection with the not just emotion in terms of happiness, sadness, anger, whatever, but the magic of feeling that we have within us. And again, so many of us are disconnected from our gut, physically, physiologically, as much as emotionally and mentally. Well, like a friend of mine says, the old saying that we are what we eat. Well, you have to take it a lot further than that, because it's not just what we eat, it's how we eat, it's what we digest. And that applies physically, mentally, and emotionally. So we have to be very clear about what we're taking in on all those levels, as well as how we're processing it, as well as being clear in our values. And then we can attempt to communicate it and present it with clarity, as we present ourselves with some reasonable degree of clarity as well. And then we can talk about being our own leader. That's the way I see it anyway.
Yeah, we've got to look at go ahead, Barke.
That is the main thing, is the connection within yourself. And that connection comes because we have to be able to have self-awareness. We have to build our own awareness of our emotions. How we feeling right now? Like we're here, okay? And this meeting that we've been prepared for a while. So for some people, the day has come, they might be panicking. They might be feeling like, oh my goodness, I can't do this. And we'll just say, oh, I'm so sorry, Alan, I can't do this. Maybe another time I can reschedule. But what are we feeling at this moment? Because for every person is different. So if I could ask every one of us here today, how are you feeling right now? Are you feeling comfortable? Are you feeling stretched in a way that stretch is feeling anxious, but also feeling challenged, feeling excited? Or are you feeling panicky, and you're trying to hide as much as you can, you know what I mean? So where are you right now? If you're being honest with yourself, where are you? Because I'm feeling stretched, I'm feeling excited, challenged, and I feel good. You know what I mean? I love it. I'm the only woman here. Hey, I'm not intimidated. I feel good. So how are you feeling? So what are you feeling, guys? Anyone can just chip in.
Yeah, I'll jump in on that if you like. I've done that many of these now. I'm quite comfortable in front of the camera. I've also got the fire behind me to keep me nice and warm as well. So I'm always excited by where the conversation's going to take us. And I'm excited by the fact that when we've got different people from different parts of the world, different cultures, that the conversations we have, there's going to be a lot of similarities and a lot of connection between the things that we all are doing, but we're also going to be looking at things differently as well. And that's going to be in, if you've got, you know, 4 members from the family, they're all going to look from the same family, all going to look at things differently, simply because they're all different individuals. How about you, Marcus?
Yeah, I think myself, it's a mixture of excitement and also feeling stretched and feeling challenged. But I guess, you know, on the probably the last 12 months on the business journey, that's something that I'm, you know, getting more comfortable with as things roll along. But yeah, as far as live videos and Zooms and things like that. But yeah, it's really exciting and very thankful to be here, to be involved.
Excellent. And Joseph?
Yeah, I just love being in this space where I have no idea what's going to happen, and you just have to go with it and improvise. I absolutely like it. To me, that I'm in my element with that, and particularly when it's meeting new people that I've never met before, and just open up and see what happens. That's the fun of life, really.
Excellent. And
It's
see,
just the way it's supposed to be anyway. So it's good.
yeah, and all of us would be, you know, we've got where we're starting from and everything. Awesome. Back to what you were saying before, Joseph, about what we put into our body. We've got to think about what we're thinking as well, what that's putting into our body.
Yeah.
Because every thought we have creates chemical reactions, and that affects our physical body. It either feeds it or eats it. And at the same time, it, you know, as I said, when I first started doing this, I remember the first time I did a Facebook Live. I was told I had to go and do it. I went and did it, came back, and I felt, oh, that was terrible. Within about an hour, 2 hours, it had 200 and something views. And I said, can I take it down now? And the person who was training me at the time said, no, you got to leave it there. The next day when I had a look at it, it had 1,600 views. And at that point, it was a case of, they asked me, are you going to take it down now? My answer to that was no, it's staying up. I've got that many views. And I started to realize that people didn't care as much as I did about how I came across. It was what they were receiving from the conversation.
Yeah,
that's the most important thing. So when we focus on ourselves, we put so many more thoughts into our heads, and that takes us away from concentrating on the other person.
Exactly. And I feel that especially for what we do, it's not about us, it's not about me, it's about the person that I'm talking to. So it doesn't matter the way I'm dressed or the way I am. Don't look at me, listen to what I'm saying. Listen to my words. And if these words resonate with you, let it absorb, but then also do something about it. And that's the main thing. That's my message at the end of the day. How are you feeling, guys? What are your thoughts?
You go for it, Marcus. Put you on the spot there.
Yeah, thanks for that.
No pressure.
Yeah, I think I can actually resonate with as well with what Joseph was saying before in regards to our head, our heart, and our gut. I think being able to tap into that as well, because when we're making decisions, I feel like that's really important. And you know, if there's a couple of decisions there, it's probably more important that we make a decision rather than not make a decision and then procrastinate and then, you know, things to go bad down the track. So, you know, making a decision, and if there's two choices that you're tossing up between, just sort of, I feel like going with that original, you know, gut instinct that you have. I feel like that's the best thing to do. Just, trust yourself and run with it.
Well, I have to chip in there for a second. You know what they say, making a decision is a one way of winning something, but not making a decision is actually making a decision. So you have to be aware you are making a decision at the end of the day of not doing anything about it. So we have to learn about the consequence of that as well. So the whole point of this discussion is that let's be honest, okay? There's no way you can grow if you are not honest with your growth, or you're not honest where you are. And that's the only way for you to grow. So remember, not making that decision, you're saying, I don't care, I'm ignorant and it's not going to happen. But actually, it will show up at the end of the day.
Absolutely. And once we begin to open up ourselves, and once we begin to move forward on the path, and I'll just use that term very loosely because everybody's path is going to be different, we know whether we're being honest. We do know,
Exactly.
and we can delude ourselves that we don't, but we do.
Mm.
And as you said, as you so rightly said, Barke, any decision, whether a non-decision is a decision, and it's really the question of what commitment are we making to ourselves, what commitment are we making to life, what value do we place on life itself, what value do we place on what we bring or what we can bring, and are we willing to step forward with that? And that's like walking the tightrope, because there's no guarantee, but we either do it or we don't. And it really is as simple as that.
You have to also understand is that what is life in itself? We have no guarantee we're going to wake up tomorrow. Okay, let's look at life like that. So if we are here today and we have a choice of making a difference in our lives, all we need to know, or all we need to want to know, is this going to increase my lifestyle or is going to decrease my lifestyle? And that can help you to choose what choice you need to choose. You know what I mean? Because come on, we are going, as they say, the time, there's always 24 hours for everybody. No one has 35 or 50, it's only 24 hours. So within these 24 hours, if we are able to do one thing that it guarantees our growth, why we're not doing it?
There's got to be reasons behind that. But I look at, well, if you look at Robert Kiyosaki, who was talking about finances and with assets and liabilities, his simple definition of an asset was something that feeds you, and a liability is something that eats you. And I think it comes back to the same thing with our thoughts and the way that we do things. Does it feed us, or does it eat us? And if it feeds us at the same time, also does it feed other people as well? You know, if we're going to be a leader, then there's a part of it that we have to bring into it.
But also we have to look at the people we surround ourselves with. The environment we surround ourselves with, because I worked with a job center in London, okay, and worked with young people, and most of the time they are lacking in self-esteem. And my program helps with the self-esteem because I've created booklets with them. But the most important thing is that every time I ask this question, what's stopping you? And they would say, is where I live, is the people around me. And I'm like, okay, are you able to do something about that? And most of the time people are just like, I don't know. I don't think I am. But it's the limitation that we put in ourselves. Because I'm still living in the same environment, but at the same time, it's how I think about things and how I do things. People who come into my life, I'm asking myself, is this person giving me, make me feel good? Do they give me positivity or they give me negativity? If they give me negativity, I'm so sorry. Okay, I like you, but maybe I will not see you so much. And that helps me to grow. And when I do see them, it's only for a short time. So it doesn't affect my emotion, but also it doesn't affect the way I am as a person, not just the way I feel. So what do we choose for ourselves? This is the key. We have that option. That's part of the freedom.
Also, in terms of when we're working with others who come from that background where they haven't had that, and in many cases they've had generations of not having positivity on so many different levels, when we meet them, what are we reflecting to them? Because it's not a case of us telling them what they should do or shouldn't do or must do and who they should hang around with, all that stuff. It's what are we bringing to them and how are we drawing them out of themselves? And that's a key skill, because it's not about imposing a solution on them, because we have to like one of the things I talk about in my work is helping people connect with that inner diamond. And to me, everybody has a diamond inside them. So if we see it in them, how do we bring it out so that they see it? How do we reflect it back to them so that they begin to see that hope, they begin to see the possibility, and then we see things blossom, we see things open up in them, for them, around them, and then they start to make different choices. But that's a crucial skill, because so many people, and it's been exacerbated, I'm sure, in Australia as much, certainly in Ireland over the last couple of years, where so many people have had fear imposed upon them, embedded in them, and it's impacted on their choices and what they think, what they're feeling, all of that. So there's a massive transformation needed, but we have to, again, going back to your original point, Barke, we have to be very clear in what it means to be a leader, to be our own leader, and then reflect it out so that people want what we're reflecting, what we're transmitting, and then they can begin to see it in themselves as well.
But this is the thing, it's so true. Because at the same time, so for me, I was always self-blame myself. So always looking at myself and look down on myself. But the thing here was that in part of my self-development, and when I started to change the way I'm thinking and start saying, okay, what is the opposite of self-blame? What is the opposite of negative? And start working on myself slowly. But there's some people that because when I started working on myself, guess what? I can't stop talking positive to other people. It just comes naturally. So when you see another person and you tell them, oh my goodness, I love what you do with yourself, or I love what you do this, or I love the way you talk about people, or I love the way you present yourself. Some people don't know that they're good in something unless someone else pointed out for them. So by showing that and saying to them like, oh my God, Marcus, you are an amazing counselor. Because of what you went through, now it shows up because of your action. Now you took a big leap for us to be able to know that we are able to do the same thing. So that can empower and inspire someone else. It's through our action. And that's how the leaders are born, but also the role model comes within. But it has to start with us. We have to go through ourselves and knowing what actually we're doing with ourselves and who we are as a person before we can tell that to another person.
So it's all about being able to walk our talk to start with. But there's a lot of people out there who are telling people what they should be doing, but a lot of them aren't doing it themselves. There's a difference. And I think people, because we are energy beings, we do pick up from other people. This is why the non-verbals, we pick those up. We recognize when somebody's not being congruent. So it's the same thing here. We have to have walked our talk first before we can go and talk to others. And it's not so much what we're saying. It's like a parent talking to a child. The children do not listen to the parents. They learn from what the parents are doing. So you've got to be a product of what you're trying to share with other people. And in the other person's story, taking that time to listen and understand them, and in that be able to find out about their story and then be able to talk about their story with them. As you've just said with Marcus, you say to him, well, look, you're a great counselor because you've told us our story. This is what we understand what you've come through. And that ability to share that with other people is fantastic.
It's very true. It's very true, because at the end of the day, what I went through, it was pain, but I turned my pain into power, because at the end of the day, my pain was just a lesson. But then now I can be able to empower someone else who's going through the same thing or even worse than me, but they have hope. So we are just holding a candle and showing to people there is a way. You are not just in the box where it's dark. There is a way out. There is a way for you to do. But the main message here is that I cannot do it for you. You have to choose the path for yourself. I cannot change you. You have to change yourself. You have to make that decision for yourself. And like I did myself. And my autobiography, the first one, is all to do with that. I just shared what I went through. It's my story. I own it. So now you need to own your own story.
And that's why we do the one-on-one, so that when people come in, they tell their story. They get to hear their own story, because quite often we don't hear what we've been living. But it's when we sit in that quiet spot when someone holds our space, we actually can then open up. And for then other people to hear that as well, because there's no two people who got the same personality on the planet. Joseph and I both work with the different systems to the old psychometric profiling where you put people in boxes. We take them out of a box and see them as individuals. To hear their story, there is no two stories that are the same on the planet. So being able to listen to them and that person to actually hear themselves telling their story is a beginning of them finding some direction. And the way we do that is not by telling them, but by being there for them.
I think
and part of that is, sorry, Marcus, go ahead, go for it.
Sorry, I think the limits, like what Barke was speaking about before, the limits that we can put on ourselves, like that is massive. Like we are our own worst enemy. Our brains are, are built to look for danger, and to sit in comfortable situations. So and I think that becomes clear even if you look at some, say, like the business world, and you see how so many small businesses that are starting out, I think 97% like fail after 5 years or something around that mark. And so I feel like a lot of that is possibly due to us placing limits on ourselves, and just like thinking about things in terms of what the possibilities are. But the other thing I think is like obviously we need to take consistent actions towards our goals and what we want. But I think the main reason why our goals may not happen, or say our business may not be successful, is because a lot of people are not getting the results that they want within, say, a short amount of time, and they're actually like the business folds, or they decide not to continue with it, or something happens financially, which causes the business to close or to cease. But I think that's the thing, is most people will actually not pursue this through the whole way, and because of all those challenges and obstacles that that may come up along the way, which is it's completely understandable. But I guess in testing ourselves is really how do we react, or how do we manage when these challenges and obstacles come up. And when you feel like giving up, what are you doing with that? Like, are you and the fact that the 3% that are successful are the ones that that stick with it and see it through, even when they have some maybe some self-judgments coming out, around them, maybe not around things not being successful, or negative self-talk or negative narrative to themselves, and being able to move forward irregardless of these things.
Yeah, part of it for me then is going back to this idea of story, and we reach a point, or we have to reach a point where we have to transcend the story, whatever our story was, whatever the pain and trauma and all of that was. And it's not to diminish anybody's pain in any way, but we need to recognize that what my mentor talks about, the sentences we speak. And it took me a while to grasp what he meant by it. And it's like we often sentence ourselves by how we talk about ourselves, how we feel about ourselves, how we perceive ourselves, all of that. And there's a need, if we're talking about being leaders in our own lives as well as for other people, there's a need to let go of that, move past it, and to use the story when it's appropriate as an example to help somebody else, but not to be caught in it, because it's when we're stuck. And I've spent enough time stuck in my own stories over the years, and I'm like myself and Alan have obviously been around for a while. So we've obviously placed limitations on ourselves, but when you reach the point where you realize, oh, the past is the past, it's no longer with me unless I choose to bring it with me and unless I choose to carry it as a weight. But once we stop that, we realize, oh, that was interesting, that helped me. And now I'm talking to Jim or Mary or whoever it is, and now I see how some of that story can help you, but it helps you to recognize how to transcend your story.
The past should
For
be,
me-
what do you call it? Just a lesson of what we need to look at right now and how we need to move forward. So instead of looking at the past and just carrying over the past over and over again, all we're doing is, building it up bigger and bigger. But if we look at and go, okay, what did I learn out of this? What was the lesson here? How can I take that and improve my life? And at the same time, when we do things, we have a tendency to overestimate what we can do in the short term and underestimate what we can do in the long term. And so if we're able to realize that, yes, if all that stuff's happened, we've been programmed to, remember it and, go over it, etc. We've got to break that program. That's going to take some time. And so in the short term, there's not going to be a great deal that happens, but that small amount that does happen is going to then manifest into something much greater over the longer period of time. And Barke, you were going to say?
Yeah, so yes, owning your story is very important, but using your story for empowering. So you're not using your story by being stuck there. That is not going to work, because if you're stuck there, that means you haven't healed. And that's that's one of the part of that we need to actually think about. Another thing is that now using our story to make a business. Like, for example, Marcus was saying that what I went through, now I'm actually helping other people. So we're creating a business. I'm the same boat. I've actually went through domestic violence and emotional abuse and having that awareness. And now I'm helping other people. That is just to bring them out of their shell, to understand, to have awareness of what is going on and what they're capable of. But what my point here is that I've never been a business person. I've never have a business. I've never, make my own money in a way. So we're going into new territory. We are going to a place that is unknown. And within that, we have to ask for help. We have to ask for someone who knows or been there or is doing that. So we have to be aware of, we have to choose the right people to help us. By what I'm trying to say is that many people, they will tell you, oh, don't do it. Don't do it. It's so scary, because you will not get there. Okay. Or do it, but you have to give it away for free. But then they don't tell you when to actually start charging. So advice is good, but at the same time, is it worthwhile for you? You won't know, because until you start making mistakes, then you're like, oh, that's not a good idea. So the most important thing here is that get yourself either a coach, a mentor who can actually support you from beginning to the time you're actually making those targets. So that's one way of doing it that will give you success. Now, another thing is that because you are in the path of self-development, you are in the path of helping yourself and helping others, that means you need another coach, or going to university like myself, you have to keep learning. Things do not stay the same. We have to be able to keep up with what is coming and what is there for us to be able to help another person, and what is there to help ourselves. So we have to ask for help, and you have to be willing and ready to get that help and do something about it. So again, limitation, there's always going to be limitation. They will show up. It's you, what you're going to do about it. Another thing is that when you own your story and you have that purpose and you have that passion, guess what? You are actually creating your own motivation. That doesn't go dry. because you have that purpose, you have that passion inside of you. I've been doing it since 2016, and I've done it. I've listened to the wrong people. I didn't make money. Okay, I've worked with empty hands. I'm just there. I want to support you. Yes, I'll be the first one there in front of you making things happen. But at the end of the day, I didn't see it as like I've lost. I've seen it as a lesson. I've taken it as a lesson. And now I've actually get my own mentors. I've actually paid to get myself better because I want to make sure that I help people in the right way. I want to be there, not to give discount for nothing or give in too much information and people are not ready to use it. So we have to be aware. We have to understand why we're doing it in the first place.
Yeah, being open to learning all the time, because one of the things I've always lived by is the most important thing I'll ever learn is the next thing I learn after I know everything. And in that, one of the things that I also found was if that was the case, all the decisions I made at any given time were based on the information that I had at that point. And this is something I always like to get across to people, is that anybody who is feeling shame, ask yourself, did you do it with all the information that you had and you did make a decision based around that? Or did you make a decision where you just deliberately did the wrong thing? If you deliberately did the wrong thing, then yes, the word shame applies. However, if you did everything because that was with the information you had, that was what you believe you should do, get rid of the word shame, because that's something you'll never, ever be able to fix. I look back at the things where I think if I had different information, I would have done something different. So I can look back at what I didn't work the first time and go, okay, I regret that I didn't have the other information to make a better decision. Because anybody who's carrying the title of shame with them, and we hear it being used all the time. Somebody saying, I have shame. And I go, no, you're never going to get rid of that shame because it's not shame at all. You've your title the wrong thing. As you said, Joseph, before, the words that we're using, we have to look at those a lot closer. And we've got to look at that self-talk, because the problem is, yes, we can have other people talking at us about what they think and everything else, but they only do that so much of the day. In what's going on in our head is 24/7. It's going on all the time.
Absolutely, Alan. Yeah, it reminds me actually of something my father said to me. I got married back in, feels like 2,000 years ago now, but back in 1985, I got married in Germany, and my parents came over for the wedding, and I spent some time with my father because I was living in Germany. They were living in Ireland, and it was rare to have time to spend with them. But when we went out and had like half a day together, and one of the things he said to me was he realized he'd made a lot of mistakes with myself and my sister when we were growing up, but he had no regrets because it was the best he could have done at the time. And that's what he said there, the wisdom of that has stayed with me. And it's one of the things, for all the mistakes I've made, I don't carry regrets. I've apologized where I think it's appropriate, absolutely. I've apologized profusely on many occasions, but I don't carry it. And that leads me to, my mind works in sort of curious ways. It goes off in all sorts of tangents. But I remember reading a transcript of a Richard Bandler seminar once, and one of the people in the audience stood up and started talking about unfinished business. And you hear that a lot in therapy circles. And Bandler stopped him and said, there's no such thing as unfinished business. You just didn't like how it finished. And again, that really resonated with me, because it told me, okay, I need to stop carrying the story. And just say, this is where I'm at now. Where do I want to go? What am I carrying with me now? What are the values? And then move ahead.
So with the story, where the way I use the story is that in sales, they have a thing called feel, felt, found. I know how you feel because I felt the same way, but this is what I found, the solution. And that reflects back to the story. That's why we share our stories. It's to show the person, well, this is what we felt at the same. We felt all of that. We went through all this. This is what we found. This was a solution. And in that, they listen to that story. They're listening and working out their solutions. That's the only reason for repeating our stories. I look at all the things that happened in my past, and I look at it and go, well, I wouldn't be the person I am today if I hadn't been through all those things. And funny enough, I quite like who I am today. I can't see myself being anybody else.
Exactly.
I think being able to identify like negative patterns that may not be serving us in our lives too. Bringing things back to our internal self rather than, you know, the external events around us, because obviously our internal thoughts and psyche and the way that we think about things, we are in control of that, and that's what matters. And the things that happen around us, if we have the right attitude and we have the right mindset around it, they don't, like, they're not as big of issues as they otherwise could be. And I genuinely believe that you know, certain patterns will repeat in our lives until we learn the lesson that we need to learn from those experiences. That's been you know, something that's been pretty massive for me, like the last 2 years, I guess. Is actually coming to that realization that you know, there's certain things that, if there's things that keep coming back up for you, or keep popping back up, there's you know, you need to maybe start asking some more questions, because there's some inner work there to be done, I believe.
It is indeed. And it comes down to, again, self-reflect. When you do self-reflection, you will start seeing that. And when you start seeing that, then you will be able to actually, either if you have a maybe journal, you write things down, and that will get you to kind of your thinking engine. The solutions will come, because at the end of the day, I call it a woodpecker. It keeps coming. So it's like pecking you. Do something about it. Come on, let's make this happen. Okay. Why we keep going back here? So we have to be aware in that. So for me, in my program, we have, it's a wheel of life. And within this wheel of life, every point of our lives, we need to put a point, okay, where it is. So from 1 to 10. So there is places that will be flat. And we have to be aware. Sometimes we tell ourselves, oh no, I'll deal with that later. But later never comes. And that is why we keep repeating. So for example, finance. A lot of people will be like, oh, I'm not good with money. So you're not dealing with it. So you're always broke. You're always working, but then the money is finished before the end of the month, and then you're struggling because you're not actually doing something about it. So you will always be in the same problem. But until we deal with that problem, because we could be just, let's write down our monthly, you know, what is coming out and what is coming in. Where is the, you know, discrepancy? Where is that? What is that going wrong? Or what can we do to actually start saving money? Or what can we do to cut things down? So it's just really having that awareness. So when we start to notice, oh, this thing keeps happening, I don't like it. Nobody likes it. Come on. We all feel that pain. It's just like, it doesn't make me feel comfortable. I want to stop and let's do something else. You distract yourself. That distraction, it comes with consequences. You're either going to make more, you're going to make it worse, or you're going to make it like, oh my God, I'm very in a lower end. And then you have to deal with it. So before it gets worse, let's look at it and then think of ideas of how we can deal with it. And that is the key point here. So listen to your woodpecker and what is it trying to tell you? That's my message today.
I don't know if we have many woodpeckers in Ireland, and I definitely don't want any of them near my head for sure. Might cause the woodpecker more pain than me. But yeah, one of the things I have learned is people often think of themselves as being stuck in a loop when it comes to behavior, but energy doesn't move in a circle; it moves in spirals. So even when it seems like it's the same pattern repeating itself, it's from a slightly different perspective. where we have a little bit more life experience and hopefully a little bit more wisdom, a little bit more insight to bring to it, and a little more fortitude maybe, that we're in, or a little bit of motivation. There's so many words you could use, where we realize, oh yeah, it's time to deal with it, and deal with it now. And there may be aspects of it, there may be remnants of it that come up again at a later time, but it's not going to be exactly the same. And it's only if we choose to give weight to it that it really impacts and holds us down.
Yeah, I think that's a key point, that, you know, we keep saying, oh, I'm doing the same thing as I did before, but we're not doing exactly the same thing because of the different knowledge we have. And it's looking for the difference to the last time I did this to this time I did this. What was the difference in that? And you're using that. Otherwise, we're just allowing that program to get deeper and deeper into our system, and therefore making it harder and harder to break the cycle of it. So we need to be able to just look and go, okay, what was the difference to this time? What did I learn out of this that was different to the previous time? And then focus on that difference to give you some ideas of where I'm moving to.
And don't stay sitting or standing in the same place as you always do when you're thinking about it or reflecting on it. Move, do something different, and then look at it.
Yes. So there is ways you can actually do it for yourself as a self-help. You can do it, you can write things down. Sometimes it's better to say it out loud and see how it feels, because part of this growth, you have to be able to find different ways of how it makes you feel good, but also work things out. So writing, if you are the kind of person who likes to write it down, look at it in front of you. So it's not always in your head. And that can be overwhelming. So when you write it down, it's actually feeling better because it's out of you. And then you can be able to deal with it. And for some people, maybe you need to write a letter or just to speak the words out. So what is that makes you feel you're in control? Because the whole of our lives, you are in control of you. No one can take that away from you. No one. So you can do that. But yes, for some people, they might need extra help, and that is okay. So find the right person for you to support you through this journey. So they will actually steer you to the right ways of actually for you to know or maybe question the right things that you need answers from. So you're never alone, but it's just yourself. What will work for you better? That's what the main thing is.
Excellent. So any other thoughts on what we've been talking about there?
Covered a lot of different territory there.
Yeah.
That's for sure. That's for sure. Yeah. But I think that the common theme, or one common theme anyways, it starts inside. It starts with ourselves. And Marcus in particular at the beginning talked about values. And I did an exercise a couple of years ago. I just needed to look at things afresh myself. And I spent some time with a coach, and we looked at my values. And of course I thought, okay, yeah, I know my values, I can list them off. But when I listed them off, it was okay, why are they important? Why are they your values? Why are they important? How are they important in your life? Give me examples. And then I realized some of them maybe not so, and others actually came up that I hadn't thought about. And one of the ones that came up for me was discernment. And discernment is a key value for me now. Discernment in how I use my time, who I spend my time with, how much time I spend with them, how can I contribute to them, how can I receive from them, and how do I interact, how do I present myself in the world, but doing it with discernment and not making excuses, no complaints, but just this is how I am, and people like me, don't like me, but as long as I'm clear within myself, clear my motivation, my intention, what my heart is telling me, as much as anything else, then I'm okay with that, and the next day will come or it won't.
I think what you were saying there about the values, asking why those values are important, because I don't know how many times I've sat in groups and somebody's been asking everybody in the audience what their values are. Now, I don't know how other people have been thinking. A lot of people come up with similar type words. And I've looked at it and I've heard what other people are saying in words. And I've actually then valued whether my value was where did it fit on the scale with their value? But then what I wasn't realizing was that if somebody says a value of loyalty was a value, well, four of us will all have different definitions of what value is to us. So the whole thing is, it's more a case of not worrying about getting the list of things and hearing what other people have got. But as you said, Joseph, asking that question, why that value? What does that value really mean to me? And is it really that important?
Yeah.
And that way we can find out about us, because the answers, as you said, are inside of us. But a lot of these groups that I've been to, the values have been what everybody else has put on the table for everybody else to see. It's got nothing to do with what other people see. It's what you feel.
But that comes down to the way society pulls it, because most of the time we go into categories, we go into what other people think. And this is why, come on, from the beginning, or, you know, from a long time, people, even your own family will tell you, this is not the way we want people to think about us. So we have to be aware that is nothing to do with outside, it's all inside. If we can win what's inside, then we can be able to let ourselves be authentic. And within that, we can attract the right people for us. No, not everyone will love you. Let's be honest. Okay. I tell people, I'm like Marmite. You either like me or you don't like me. And it's okay. I'm okay. I keep smiling. I'm good. So you be okay with you. You know what I mean? So end of the day, value is key. When you go down to it and you know your value, that means no one can take you for granted, but also you will not surrender to anyone else's value.
Yeah, because we talk about, you know, being 1 in a million people. You know, so look at someone and say, oh, you're 1 in a million. No, we're 1 in 8 billion people. You know, everybody is uniquely different to everybody else. There's no two people the same. This is where the work that Joseph and I do, when we profile people, where other people put people with psychometric profiles, put them into a box. And I always say to people, how do you feel like being in that box? You go, I don't feel like there. I say, well, come on out and I'll treat you as an individual. And in that, even then, we're always testing and making sure that we've got it right. There's no judgment in it. I'll look at traits and I'll go, right, this is what this trait's telling me. I know how I need to change the way I like to be spoken to match the way that person does. But then I have the feedback and their body language, their body language and their facial expressions that tell me, have I read them right? And is there something emotionally going on? And it's their this is a key thing. It's their unconscious mind that's telling me whether I've got it right or wrong. It's not their conscious mind, because it's their reactions in their nonverbals that tell me whether they, at their soul level, agree with it or not. So therefore, that brings me back to thinking, right, we have to trust our inner voice, because it knows. So I'm trusting the other person's inner voice to tell me whether I've got it right in the first place. And hopefully they will do the same thing with themselves, to look internally, to understand themselves and let the other stuff go that's coming from outside.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's so often what's going on in here is so loud. Yes. Somebody reminded me recently of a Mark Twain quote where he said, never miss out on an opportunity to shut up. And I learned it, I guess, as a therapist many years ago, to shut up and let people talk and let people be in silence with people and let them reveal whatever it is they want to reveal. And it'll often give them the deepest insights they could possibly get about themselves.
It's a great skill.
As I say in that, when the pregnant pauses, as they call them, people just don't like to have a pause. If you're able to pause and provide that space for somebody, because they have a desire to fill that gap, they will open up. And that's the way you bring them out. It's not by talking to them that you bring them out. It's in the silence. As I say, it's like text. When somebody sends me a message, if it's just sentence after sentence, I can't read it. I have to spread it out. I've got to get some white space in amongst it. That silent space, so that I can actually see what they're actually saying. And I think that, as I say, 2 eyes, 2 ears and 1 mouth, and use them in that proportion. And when you're using your mouth, it's ask questions. and ask them questions on questions. If we ask ourselves a question, we to make a statement, go, why? Give an answer to that, then ask ourselves again, why to that, and then why to that. Because I guarantee when we say, oh, this is what I should be doing, it'll be because, you know, and then I go, okay, because I want to get this. So, or sorry, so I can have this, so I can have that, so I can have that. So if I ask those questions and I finally get to the final one, which says because of this, then I know I've got what my purpose is. I know what I'm really after. Because it's what they call in business short-term goals and long goals. The short goals are the ones in the process of getting there, and the long-term goal, the end goal as it is the one that you really want, your purpose. And so by asking that question, if I keep going, if I do this, so I can do this, so I can do that, no. But if it's like doing this so that, you know, I've got this at the end, then it's a different thing altogether. Okay. So if we were, you know, wrapping this up, and that just a final word that you would suggest to people that they, you know, should follow, what would your some probably not so much. I hate the word giving advice, but I only give advice if I was saying, for me, this is what I would do. I never would say this is what you should do, because it's not my life. So in sort of finishing it off, what were the things that you would say to yourself that other people can take from today? If I could start with you, Barke.
So for me, what works for me is the way I listen to what I'm saying to myself. I am, any sentence you start with I am, you own it. So be aware of I am what. So if you're going to be using negative talk or positive talk, and then watch your body language, watch yourself, how you feel after you say that. So everything we say to ourselves is we are affirming, and we're owning that. So I start with me. And if I can be able to own my story, myself, and then I am ready to actually express to everybody else. So it all starts with you. And today, this is how I show up, how I am feeling right now, and I'm feeling good. And thank you. I'm grateful to be here. Thank you for sharing this space with me.
Thank you very much. And Marcus?
For myself, I would just probably say to people, if they're in a place where they may feel a little bit lost or a little bit uncertain on their pathway, I would go back once again to or where I felt it all started for me, as I mentioned before, was values. Really go through and ask yourself, what are your values? And like Alan said, why are they important to you? Because I feel like everything else comes from that, and you know, that's really where it all begins. And then you can work out your goals, get some clear intentions about how you're going to reach those particular goals, and everything can be in alignment. You know, to take us to that you know, to that place where we want to be. And another thing that I've been told, you know, by business coaches before, and I think is really important, is you know, that you're at a certain level yourself. You know, so you're here. There's always you know, another person or another coach, or you know, someone else who's you know, higher up than yourself, and so have that continuous improvement, continuous learning and growth from our experiences. And you know, there'll always be someone that you know, ahead of you, that's further down your pathway or on your journey, that you can learn, you know, that you can learn from. So that's sort of what's been really important for me as well, is just you know, keep going on that continuous journey of learning. But yeah, finishing on that, yeah, thanks for having me on, and yeah, I really enjoyed really enjoyed the discussion.
Thanks, Marcus. And Joseph?
Yeah, I guess a few things I've learned over the years. To learn to be in the body, because the body will tell us anything we need to know about ourselves if we can really tune into it. And then the body is continually transmitting and receiving. So we meet somebody and our body will tell us a lot about them. If we learn to read the signals, it's not just in the face, and although the face has so much information, as we know, but the whole body is picking up signals, it's transmitting signals. So, and that's a big part of how we connect with other people. Like in business terms, there's a phrase about know, like, and trust, which is used frequently, but it's actually the trust bit that comes first. We instinctively trust or don't trust somebody before anything is said, before anything is done. So that's the basic stuff. And the other particular thing I've learned, and it took me quite a while to learn it, is to smile more often. Because smiling when we really smile fully, it opens doors, it opens hearts, it opens minds.
And on that last little bit there with that, I always say to the women, smile, you'll get these lines out here. But when I talk, I often say to people that beauty's only skin deep, but that's beauty that goes all the way to the bone. With the mature women who are listening to this, if you've got lines out here, you're the sort of person that if we're in a large group, I will go and talk to, because I know that person has had a lot of joy in their life and the conversation is going to be great. So that is a mark of beauty. So rejoice in having that. But I also like the old Arabic statement that said, trust everybody, but lock up your camels at night. And the way I've interpreted that is that listen to everybody, listen to what we've said today, take it all in, but then look at what parts of it serves you. Only take what serves you. As we've talked today, there's so much information and so many things that you can bring together. Find the ones that connect more, that you sort of connect with, you resonate with more, and follow those through. And as everyone's been saying, find the right coaches and mentors. Always ask them their stories as well. And if they can't relay the story and you can't feel inside that they're telling you a real story, not something that they've made up because they've been told they've got to tell a story on stage to get everybody, make sure that you can feel it yourself, that they are telling you the truth. Because everybody is a profiler. As young children, we were brilliant at it. As we got older, everything else that we do, we've put it aside because we're too busy learning new things, going to school, playing sports, everything else. So it's a muscle we didn't actually work, and so it atrophies. If I get my teeth around the right.
Yep.
I've done it again. I used to be able to say, I've got the wife's teeth in, but I can't do that anymore. So. But it's the case of just be careful of how you take things in and how you process it. Make it your own first before you accept it from anybody else. And okay, everyone, thank you very much for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
We'll get you back on some more panels.
Wonderful.
Thank you so
Looking
much.
forward to it. Thank you.
Thanks, Alan. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. And to everybody else, we'll see you on the next campfire. Bye for now.